Hello, my name is Ashley, and today I will be talking about how voter turnout will bump up and increase voter turnout. How creating an election day would increase voter turnout. So first I will be addressing how low the turnout in the U.S. really is and why it matters. Then I will be talking about how the key to fixing this is scheduling and why we need to change the schedule. And lastly, I will be addressing how other countries are addressing their voter turnout and their numbers. So to start off, the U.S. has a much lower turnout than any other of the democracies that are about the same as us. A 2016 study of the Annenberg Public Policy Center of the University of Pennsylvania stated the U.S. is the sixth lowest turnout among democratic developed nations. The United States ranked 26 out of 32. And in all the countries in comparison, we are 139 in 172 countries. That means we are one of the worst turnouts. On average, 80% of our young people and low-income citizens do not vote. That means the people who are being affected the most aren't getting their voices heard. About 40%, we only get about 40% votes during midterm elections and 60% during actual presidential elections. This, in other countries, we're doing really bad. Most of the other countries are ranging between 70 and 90. Next, I will be moving on to why scheduling is a key reason for low-income turnout. According to the Census Bureau, registered voters stated conflicting schedule was the most common reason for not voting in 2008, 2010, 2012, and 2014. So the date is a Tuesday. It's a random Tuesday in November. Why do we vote on a Tuesday? This is because in 1945, most of the people who were voting were rich Catholic farmers. That's not the population today. Yet, it was chosen a Tuesday because Sunday was dedicated to going to church and Wednesday was dedicated to trading. As of now, this day is probably the worst day for us to go to elections. The people who are affected the most are students, single parents, and citizens who are working multiple jobs. This is important because Aham stated, based on the 2010 voter turnout, the Census Bureau found that people from families who earned more than $100,000 were twice as likely to vote than those who came from households who were less than $20,000. So what does this mean? This basically means that if you don't have higher income, you're less likely to miss work, get a babysitter, and go and voice your opinion. That means that our voices aren't being heard because we weren't able to get a day off or to put our kids second because of our elections. Therefore, election day should be converted into a national holiday so those who have lower incomes, who are busy and have to go to school, are able to vote. So for most of us, we work a job and we also come to school. That means we're not going to get out of our things to do until about 6, 7 o'clock at night. Voting ends at 8. That means the lines are going to be terrible. We're going to have to wait there for hours. It's not going to make sense. But if we convert it into a national holiday, that means nobody would go to work. Everyone has all day to go vote. Again, nobody has to worry about a babysitter not making money that day. And the lines would be so much shorter because now we have an even distribution of people. Lastly, I would want to talk about how other countries are addressing scheduling and their voter turnout. So first, I would like to talk about Sweden. Sweden has a 96% voter turnout. Remember, our voter turnout was about 40%, 40 and 60. But Sweden has such a high turnout because they're mandatory to register. Basically, Sweden takes their address, where they were born, all their information possible, and puts it into a database and does it for them. I'm bringing this up because America has historically had a hatred for intrusive bureaucracies, meaning that we wouldn't be able to do this. This is not a solution for us. Next, I would talk about countries who vote on Saturdays and Sundays. Among 36 members of the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, part of the 36, 27 out of them vote on Saturday and Sunday. Some of these numbers are Japan, Finland, Italy. Japan has a 67.5 voter turnout. Finland a 70%, Italy a 72.9, meaning that if that day off we can vote, it would increase voter turnout. Lastly, the only other country who does have an actual holiday for elections is Korea. And Korea has a 77.9 turnout. Let me remind you guys, we have a turnout about 40 to 60% depending on the elections. So what we have to do is convert National Election Day into a national holiday. Thank you.
All right, Ashley struggled a little bit getting that proposition out at the beginning of the speech, and we finally figured out what it was that you were talking about. Halfway through, it does turn into a proposition of policy, and at the end of the speech, that's kind of how you finish up. So we do have policy considerations that are going to be ending up part of the argument, which we're not really supposed to be getting to at the moment. The secondary points are laid out pretty straightforward, that U.S. has low turnout. You say the key is scheduling, and so there's some information about scheduling issues here, the difficulty of people not being able to schedule. Now, I do think that people self-report that scheduling is the issue, but that's not necessarily the same thing as that the times of the day are the thing that makes it impossible. Sometimes, like you said, people overcommit. Sometimes they're doing a variety of things that interfere. So I say, I can't go vote. I've got to pick up the kids or all that sort of thing. How that was going to change if we had a day off, that's a little bit harder to figure out because they would still have the responsibility of doing those kinds of things. And like I said, this is when you've got a semi-policy argument here. The argument that's going to be answering this is whether or not this would make a difference. That's one argument, but there are also consequences to doing this. And by the way, on national holidays, you think of the biggest national holiday that we have, the notion that there are people that nobody works on that day, that's just not true. I pick any holiday and businesses are open, people get paid, people work on those days. How many people would have to work? I don't know what the difference would be, and it's pretty speculative at this particular point that they would vote more. The argument probably from the other side will be that there are counter-causality issues, that there are other reasons why people don't vote, and there's really not much discussion of what voting options people have. You say, that we all vote on one day, but I'm not sure that that's the limitation. There are lots of ways that people vote in the U.S., and it's not necessarily restricted to a singular day. So that'll probably be another issue also. I thought you did a pretty good job presenting comparative statistical information. That helps build your argument. And when you're listing the United States rankings, I think that helps build a notion that there's a problem here. I like the statistical correlation that you had about the likelihood of your income being connected to the likelihood of voting. I think that's also an important point. Like I said, and then at the end of the speech, it kind of goes back to being a policy argument. So that's sort of what we were trying to avoid, but it happened. All right, thank you.
Thank you.